All right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for this Startup Grind event. My name is Michelle Hepner, and I'm hosting the event today in lieu of Kim, who is very pregnant and about to give birth any day now. So let's wish her a lot of luck.
Good luck.
My company is CodeVantage, and we're one of the sponsors. And what we do is we support startup companies, small businesses, and also medium-sized companies. And we help them out in areas including HR, payroll, benefits, making sure that the companies are compliant. So really the owners and the rest of the company can focus on what they're great at. A lot of faces are very familiar to me, but if we haven't met, let's meet after this interview conversation. But with further ado, I'd really like to pass everything along to Michaela.
All right, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Today we have Brian Dainton here with us. He's the Vice President of Engineering at Spredfast. So he has told me a lot more things about him while we were networking, so I really want him to announce it. But let's just get started. Let's give a round of applause for Brian. So Brian, tell us about yourself. Where are you from, and what's a fun fact about you?
A fun fact, okay. So hi everybody, I'm Brian. You probably shouldn't have applauded until later because I haven't really done anything for you yet. But I grew up in Chicago, moved down here to Austin about 17 years ago, February 98. So 17 years ago. Went to school in Chicago, got a degree from computer science at the University of Illinois. And after coming down here to Austin, actually I'll start on a personal note, start personal and then get professional because a lot of this is professional stuff. So on a personal note, married with two boys, not married with two boys, I'm married to my wife and we have two young boys. It's like Bizarro World, Utah. Married and two young kiddos. Super important for me to be a great colleague, a solid leader, at work, but then also a great husband and father. And so finding all that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of focus, takes a lot of balance, and I love to do that. In my spare time, I love to play poker. I love a good homebrew. I love playing with my kids and family. So that's me on a personal side. Professionally, came down here to work 17 years ago for a company in Austin called Trilogy. Trilogy was kind of a big thing back in the dot-com era. They're still around and doing amazing. But since I left Trilogy, since in the past many years, I've been doing technical roles, either employee number one, starting teams, running teams, being a solid individual contributor at a variety of different startups. But most recently, and the reason why I'm actually sitting here is that I'm one of the founders of Mass Relevance, which came together several years ago. Just 8 months ago, April of this last year, we merged with another company here in town called Spredfast. We maintained the Spredfast name, so the company is now Spredfast. I still maintain a top technical leadership role there at Spredfast, obviously. Just real quick context on Mass Relevance and Spredfast. So at Mass Relevance, we made a name for ourselves by saying, hey, there's all this social media content out there already. There are people talking all the time, hundreds of thousands of tweets per second, per minute, hundreds of thousands of Facebook posts per minute, Instagram, Snapchat, all that. We know there's conversations going on out there. We pull it all in, we sift through it, and we surface the best stuff for our customers to use in their marketing campaigns. And actually some of our early customers were TV customers. I'll get back to that in a second. Spredfast was on the other side. They're like, if you're a business and you want to speak out on social media to your customers, use the Spredfast platform to do that. So Mass Relevance was all about, we're bringing everything in and we'll surface the best stuff and you use that. And Spredfast was all about, you're a business, you need to speak out on social channels. We've got the best software to do that. So we brought the companies together and now we've got both sides of the social coin, speaking out and bringing everything in. But the reason I brought up the television aspect, some of our earliest customers were media companies, every major networker, every major network, cable company. If you've ever seen a piece of social media content on television, if you've seen it as part of the Super Bowl or the elections or the Olympics, That's our software that has powered that. We are sifting through those millions of pieces of social content every minute, surfacing the best content, and we give the tools to the television companies to put that content on air. And we were the first to do it. We broke the ground on doing that. And for having done that, we won an award this last couple weeks ago. We went out to Vegas and we won an Emmy. A little known fact is that there are multiple types of Emmys. There are primetime Emmys, there are daytime Emmys, and there are technical Emmys. And I brought the Emmy with us. So if you guys are in any way interested, you want to come up later and hang out and meet my girlfriend, Emmy. She's right here. In the backpack. So we'll just set it.
Amazing.
Nice.
We can
Put it right here. There you go.
Okay.
Can you give us your speech that you gave?
Actually, I will say I do a lot of speaking at work. I am one of the sort of cultural torchbearers at work. I do a lot of speaking, a lot of involvement from the team. And one of my my technical co-founder, Eric, he does not get the limelight as much as I normally do at work. So I asked him to give the Emmy acceptance speech. So no, I can't redo my speech because I didn't give it. So that's me in a nutshell. Hi, everybody.
When did you start to realize that social media marketing and content creation was a job market rather than an intern's duty?
Yeah, intern's duty. I'd say early on, we were less focused on the concept of actually creating content and pushing it out than we were on finding all that content, bringing it in, and putting it on air. It's only as we evolved as a business and got to a point where we had ESPN using our product on a daily basis. This is probably a year ago now, which from the start of the company would have been about 3.5 years. So it took us about 3.5 years to get to the point where our customers were using our software. They wanted to find great content and put it on air. They wanted to find great content as a brand and put it to work for them as part of their marketing campaigns. Along that time, certainly the social world evolved. Brands and media companies started to accept social media more, recognize that they had to pay attention to it. And so we started to build tools that not only surfaced the best content to put on air or to put in on a website or something for a marketing campaign, but we also built tools to help them create that content. And so it wasn't immediate. It took a little while for I'd say for the market to catch up. We surmised that it would be there very early on, but honestly, it was about 3.5 years into the business before content creation was really sort of a big thing. Now, for traditional Spredfast pre-merger, that was one of the things that the business was founded on. They knew that there was going to need to be a set of enterprise tools to help people, to help companies send content out, and they were absolutely founded on that premise. And now, thankfully, we brought the companies together, and like I said, we've got sort of both halves of that social coin.
Social media marketing is a fairly new thing, so help me understand it, describe it in a nutshell so we can start off knowing it, and then we'll move forward from there.
Sure. So social media marketing, I see as two things, and I'll be succinct. So it's taking traditional marketing and pushing it out via social channels. Ultimately, a marketer, tries to drive leads or drive traffic back to the website or push a product. They've done that traditionally. Every business has done that, selling their product or service or marketing their product or service. This is taking that to social channels. So that's the obvious one. That's social media marketing. But the way that our company has evolved, it's going one step beyond that and learning from from the wealth of social data that we have. We have a tremendous amount of social data, access to core Facebook insights, access to the Twitter fire hose, intelligence that we discern from that. We are learning from social media en masse and then infusing that insights into traditional marketing tactics. So using the information from social to fuel traditional marketing, and then the other one, taking traditional marketing tactics and pushing it out through social channels.
So are you just aggregating what people are putting out on their Twitter accounts, or can you clarify that? What is it exactly you're finding and then collecting and putting out?
Sure. As an example, we have a capability. This is a relatively new capability, but we can discern what is it that, what topic is coming up this week. We know that, let's say, it's the birthdays of these 5 celebrities, and it's National Donut Day, and there's something else coming up here. We can discern from all those upcoming events which ones will resonate most or have traditionally resonated most with followers of Victoria's Secret or followers of ESPN. And we do that by consuming the entirety of the Twitter fire hose. And we've made a tremendous investment in our, this gets geeky, but our internal search infrastructure. Basically, we'll take every single tweet that's happened over the last year and tag it with information about whether or not that person is a follower of Victoria's Secret or a follower of ESPN, allowing us to determine what the social resonance is, how many people engage with, how many people tweet about, how many people reply to or favorite or what about one topic versus another. So it's pulling in all this content and surfacing the amount to which one topic resonates. And then we can use that, put that in front of ESPN, put that in front of Victoria's Secret, put that in front of the NFL, and say, these are the things that you should be focusing on. This is the set of people to whom you should be sending your marketing message, or for your existing audience, the message is going to resonate best with them.
I want to direct this question to the audience. How many of you guys have budgeted for social media marketing? A few? Okay. Goes into my next question, because I've met people before who didn't budget for marketing because they wanted to spend that money on an expert coder. What is your opinion of that approach, and what would you say to them?
I'm very biased. No, I think the answer there is nuanced, because it depends heavily on where you are in the life cycle of your company. So as an example, very, very early on, early days, if you don't have a product, then pouring gas on the marketing fire is going to be useless. You can market out to the world saying, I got this and I got this and I got that, and you drum up a ton of interest, but if you don't have a product to back it, then you're going to fall flat. And so the answer there really is that it depends on where you are, whether you should invest in that developer or invest in the sales director or invest in marketing. It's definitely very much a cyclical pattern for any business. I mean, it still is for us at Spredfast. We've grown from 3 to north of 350 people over the last 4.5, 5 years. And at every moment in our life cycle, it's where do we need to pour the gas? Is it time to double down on R&D? Are we going to throw, do we need some more coding talent? Okay, then let's do that. Okay, do we have a surplus of product? Do we got a badass product that we need to get out there? Let's pour some gas on marketing. Okay, now we got a tremendous amount of demand generated. Let's get some salespeople in the field to make sure that they can go out and actually close some deals. And now you got more deals, you got more customers that want more product, they want new advances, they want to see what the roadmap is. You got to pour gas on product to bring that thing back again. So what do I say to those people? You know what? They might be right for that point in their lifetime. But it's not always, you should I don't know, you got to make the right call for where you are that time in your business.
We'll touch on this later on in the conversation about the platforms we should start using, but I want to start asking you about your client base, and how long did it take you to grow your client base to what it is today? You're talking about that cyclical time frame.
Yeah, let's see. So how long did it take to grow the client base? At Mass Relevance, we started growing. I should give a little context. We bootstrapped the business for 1.5 years before we actually founded the company and really made a go of it. My co-founders and I were working at another company here in town, doing this one on the side, building it out as a passion project before deciding after a year and a half that it had enough legs to actually make it a real business. And so we were starting to build customers even in that bootstrap phase. It was really some success there that said that we should actually make a go of this and leave our full-time jobs to pursue a company of our own. So we had somewhere in there between about 10 and 15 customers before we decided that it had enough traction to actually make a go of it. It was really, not that it had enough traction, but it was either we were gonna, we couldn't do our day jobs well enough and balance the set of customers that we had on the side. I was taking business calls in conference rooms at my day job to keep it afloat. Before even officially founding the company, we had between 10 and 15 customers. And once we founded it though and got off and running, we were able to establish a very early lead, specifically amongst media companies that wanted to get social content on air. And you'll probably hear more about media companies later. They're a demanding crowd. We grew our customer base from about 10 to 15 to 300 over 3 years. And we saw a heavy spike early on, probably about 50 customers in the first year that were very, very heavily media-based. And then we saw applicability for our product to the brand space. And just to make clear, the distinction between media and brands, ESPN, CBS, ABC, those are all sort of media customers, sports, media networks, and brands are like I mentioned, Victoria's Secret, Aeropostale, Abercrombie and Fitch, those types of companies, ones that sell a product or service. We saw the same applicability for our product in powering marketing campaigns, and it's like where do you pour the gas on the fire? We said, okay, well, let's go from one sales director, and we brought in a second one focused on brands. We started to saw more demand there, and also brands have deeper pockets, as we saw a bigger opportunity in brands. So we quickly went from 1 to 2 to 4 sales directors, largely splitting media and brand sales. And quickly we jumped year over year, 50, 150, 300 over the course of 3 years, 300 customers. And then what's awesome, so we merged with Spredfast at the beginning of last year, April of last year. Spredfast also had about 300 customers. Well, what's awesome is that the overlap between our customer bases was almost nothing. I think there were 20 customers overlapped. And what we brought together and created was a social software platform that spanned the full breadth of social needs for any one enterprise. And so what you have now is 580 customers that have yet to be upsold, one product to the other. It's incredibly lucrative greenfield for sales directors with an incredibly powerful product suite. So I'm not sure if that exactly answered your question, but when we merged, we went from 300 to 600 customers, and 300 to nearly 600 customers, and now, this year is all about going on offense. We're going to cross-sell and upsell absolutely everything. We will be the dominant players in this space if we aren't already.
Who has been your most challenging client and why?
Well, I won't name names, I would say. But I will say...
what does it rhyme with?
What is it? Yeah. No, I think it's more appropriate to say that, and this is, so the media space, media is incredibly demanding. Ooh, okay. All right, I'll go out on a limb here. We wrap a couple things together. We won this Emmy for innovation in improving engagement around TV and social media. Brand new category. There was another winner as well, and that winner was Twitter. So Twitter also won an Emmy in the same category. After we proved very early on that we were able to take primarily tweets at that point, to air very effectively, the largest, biggest, most influential TV events, we were able to service them perfectly and effectively. Twitter became huge advocates. And so they would put us, they drummed up a lot of business for us. establishing a strategic partnership like that was incredibly valuable. Now, drawback is that every media company, they don't want to do, every television show, they don't want to do what the last TV show did. So the demand for new concepts, new ideas is through the roof. And Twitter wants to satisfy all those demands, but they're not going to do it themselves. They're going to lean on their partners. And so I would say the most demanding customer was Twitter. They wanted us to continue to, so not challenging, or it's challenging that they're demanding, but it can be exhausting, primarily as a software provider. I mean, we built this software and it works great, but they're also look to us and still do for great new ideas. It's so funny to see new television concepts that are coming out that we pitched to Twitter and pitched to the television networks 3 years ago. The social save on The Voice, we came up with that. All of the social voting on American Idol, that's all powered by us, and that was an idea that we had before we even had a connection with Fox. And it's neat to see those concepts come out. They wanted those ideas 3 years ago, and I guess they got them, but they weren't satisfied with them then, and finally put them on air 3 years later. Long answer.
So who's coming up with these ideas on your team? Do you have a specific pocket in your department, or how does that work?
I firmly believe we do as a company that new ideas, new concepts, new creative product ideas and ways that we can execute are not limited to just a naturally creative set. So innovation can come from anywhere. And with that in mind, one of my favorite things that we do at work is something we call Hack Week. There are a lot of companies now, a lot of startups in the Bay Area. Certainly I was inspired early on by Twitter's Hack Week, where they would spend a week, entire company, away from everything else, and they'd focus on something that they thought was new and innovative and cool, as long as it benefited the company in some way. And so we've picked that up and run with it. We've done now 3 Hack Weeks, and the impact to our product roadmap, the impact to our corporate culture, the impact to processes that we do internally, and the impact to sort of the portfolio of ideas that we can offer to media companies and our brand customers has been mind-boggling. The Hack Weeks we now do twice a year, about once every 6 months, and it is by far one of the most inspirational, fruitful things that we do at work. It fuels our product roadmap for the entire half of the year that we're not doing Hack Week stuff. It's awesome. So the ideas come from everywhere. Certainly early on in the life cycle of the company, it was me and our creative, when we were 5 people, it was me and our creative director and somebody from sales, and I don't know, we just all get together in a room, we hash out some concepts, knowing what technical constraints we have, and then we'd execute on them.
Before we get into analytics, can you give me an example of both a successful and a failed social media marketing strategy?
Sure. So I'll start with successful. Social marketing strategy. One of the things that our platform is able to power really well is a whole relatively new type of social media, I'd say maybe less strategy and more badass tactic, is real-time marketing. And so a lot of people equate that with, it's sort of the first big spotlight was shown on real-time marketing during the Super Bowl, 2 or 3 years ago when the lights went out. Oreo had that tweet that was, you can still dunk in the dark. You guys see that? Anybody see that? Okay, everybody knows it. Through our capability to surface trending real-time content, we have enabled a never-before glimpse at what is going on right now, what are the trends that are popping up, and put in front of our customers tools that allow them to very rapidly craft an on-brand message that can go out to their audience that is driven by stuff that is trending within the last 5 minutes. So the concept of real-time marketing, there's an amazing book written by Chris Kearns called Trendology, relatively new. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It gives you strategies for, or guidelines for how to build up a team that's ready to do real-time marketing. That I would say as incredibly successful. He lays out tons of reasons, metrics. He's put some data and science behind real-time marketing and proven that it is and can be and is incredibly valuable. Failed social media strategy. You know, I think certainly the most failed, well, I think those companies that just see social media as a mechanism for shouting your message and not responding, listening. Social media, specifically Twitter and Facebook, perhaps less so on some other social media channels. They've really opened the door for brands to humanize themselves, for you to connect, for you to have a voice that people can actually reach out and connect with. Think about, when did Twitter start? 2006, 2007. Before that, so let's say 10 years ago, if you had a problem with a brand, or your flight is delayed or whatever, what did you do? I mean, you were pissed off and you hunkered down and did you call the airline? I don't know. I feel like there weren't a lot of people calling and bitching. You just kind of sucked it up and went on your way. But now your natural inclination is to tweet out at that airline and say, hey, my flight is delayed. What can you do for me? This sucks. And they have an opportunity to reach back out, give you that tender, loving care. I think that failed social media strategies are those that still don't recognize that social media can be used as that bridge between end customer and the brand. There are too many who still just use it as a soapbox for shouting, hey, I've got a new product, I've got a new service. That's a mistake.
How long is a general period before you stop running a campaign?
Stop running a campaign. I don't have a good answer for that one. Say every campaign is very different. There are some that are, just as an example of that, specifically through social media, you can do, and a lot of our customers do, lightning campaigns. There was last Super Bowl, because I saw a commercial during this Super Bowl for Esurance. Last Super Bowl, they did this thing, so I'm getting a lot of feedback. Last Super Bowl, they did this thing where they ran the Esurance commercial, and if you tweeted using a specific hashtag within the ensuing 10 minutes, they were going to pick one of those from random and you were going to win $1 million. That's a campaign, right? It is. It's a campaign. It's a short-lived one. But we collected all of the millions of tweets that were sent in about 10 minutes and put them in front of Esurance, and they picked a winner at random. They picked a winner at random, and that was the extent of the campaign. And there are others that last over months. One of my favorites is from Foot Locker. Recently, they did Hoops with Harden. You guys heard of this? So is it James Harden? He's a guard, and they ran this thing. It was like he connected with a few people that would send either Vines or Instagram videos, and he would basically playing a game of horse. Yeah, Horse with Harden. Sorry, that was the name of the campaign. That went over several months. They played a game of horse back and forth between him and a variety of people just on social media. And that's a campaign where it lasted months. And as soon as people started seeing that other people were doing that, I'd see that you were playing Horse with Harden. I'm like, oh, I want to do what Michaela's doing. I'm going to reach out to him. And in all of those tweets, all of those Vines, all of those Instagram videos, there's a link back to Foot Locker. That's stretched over months, a ton of content that Foot Locker did not generate. The end users generated. We generated. I did. You did. And it went to fuel their message and their brand. So that one's months. The first one's minutes.
We've talked about media and brands, but you also work with agencies. And what are the different challenges with that? Because I think many people in here would fall into that category. So they don't have a Hardin, or they don't have a Dunkin' Oreo to rely on for a campaign. So if someone's starting from the ground up, what would you say that core social media platform, or where to even position their campaign, or where to start?
Okay, a couple of questions in there, I think.
Yeah.
It's fine. So yes, we do work with agencies as well. Both media companies and brands have agencies that do a lot of creative work for them, creative and concept work. Some of our biggest challenges in working with agencies is that an agency naturally introduces one level of interaction between us and our end customer, the customer that's actually getting the benefit. And that can be incredibly challenging when it's a game of telephone. When we do some work or we build some software, something that the agency uses, and they're like, this is awesome, this is great, perfect, exactly what they want. And I'm like, awesome, great guys, great job, go back to your desk, we're all done. And then we get back the next day and the agency comes back and says, oh, no, wait, we showed it to our client, we showed it to our customer, the brand or whatever, and they don't like it, we gotta scrap it and go back to zero. That sucks. I mean, that's a challenge of working with agencies. Who here, is anybody here work for an agency, with an agency? Okay, yes. So let's see, I'll just say how to get started. Honestly, I think the answer there depends heavily on where you want to go. So if you are starting off in an agency, let's say you're ground floor at an agency, you're part of a creative team that wants to bring social to bear for the customers that your agency has, the clients that your agency has. I think first up there is, getting, probably the best thing you can do is really get deep into the various social networks and understand how it is that people interact on those specific networks, because that really gives you some insight into how you can run effective campaigns on those networks. Very, very different to do one on Snapchat than Google+. That's kind of funny. Nobody really uses Google+. To do it on Snapchat versus Instagram versus Twitter versus Facebook, whatever. Just recognizing there are different audiences there. So I'd say the way to get started, if you're not already there, start to get social media savvy by being on all of them. I'm a little bit older guy. It's a little bit funny for me to be on Yik Yak and Snapchat, and I get it. I gotta be in it because I want to understand how it works. And I think that if you're going to be in this business as a brand, as a media customer, as an agency, you've got to know that stuff inside and out.
Who do you Snapchat with?
That's very funny because very early, so not too many people. But a lot of my colleagues, and it's funny, the first person I added were my co-founders, and it was really awkward because we didn't really have anything to Snapchat to each other. No, now it's a number of people inside the company. There's not anybody outside of Spredfast that I have as a Snapchat friend. Yeah.
Well, what's your take on the new Discover feature of Snapchat? I don't know if any of you guys heard that. Snapchat has partnered with multiple organizations, media, food, entertainment, ESPN, and it takes about 8 different articles, and it's just a swipe of the finger, small videos, National Geographic, but it's just targeting, I would say, millennials to force them to read news and see small videos, and I love it. I use it, and it was only not even a week old, so.
I think it's pretty amazing, and here's why. So you might think of Snapchat, if you don't know what Discover is, you might think of Snapchat just as take a photo, take a video, send it to my friends, right? And it doesn't get seen by my parents, it's safe, goes away. And that's what it has been for, I don't know, the last year or two, something I don't know how long Snapchat's been around. And that's great. And so that resonated with millennials, and it means that they've built up this network of millions and hundreds of millions of loyal users who are using it constantly. So all that while, what they've done, they've built a platform that is prime, it is ready for video distribution. Think of that maybe as a media company, as ESPN, you know what, give me an opportunity to push a 5-second video or 8-second video, 10-second video out to hundreds of millions of people. What is the value of that what's the value of taking 3 of those seconds? I don't know if they'll go there, but I surmise that, I suspect they will. pushing a 3-second video ad, ultra low amount, small amount of time, but just getting out to, hundreds of millions of people. They've built a video distribution network. Yes, early on it was utility around, Snapchatting to my friends, but really they've built the network now by which they can push short form video and photos out from brands, from media outlets to a whole generation of connected users. So I think it's incredibly powerful. I think that vision, although I wouldn't have done this, I think that vision is probably what inspired them to spurn a $6 billion offer from, wasn't it from Facebook? Facebook offered to buy Snapchat for $6 billion. They said no. It's probably because they had a vision like that in mind. And there is no doubt I'll say, if there's one thing that we have to look forward to in 2015 across Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter just announced something the other day, video is gonna go freaking bonkers. It's a pretty broad term, but that's where you're gonna see tremendous investment and growth in the next year at least.
You just answered my last question, so I'll open it up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
How has your pricing structure changed over time with your member acquisition, figuring out your strengths?
Yeah, so the question, if you didn't hear, was how has our pricing structure changed? So a little story there. When we first started the company, long before Mass Relevance existed, so a year and a half before Mass Relevance existed, we had a product and we put our pricing up on the website because that's what you're supposed to do. And the best decision we ever made was to take our pricing off the website. I remember that our initial pricing ranged from, it was a very common monthly SaaS play. It was anywhere from $50 to $250 a month, something like that. And the first thing that we did after we took our pricing off the website, said, you know what, let's just get in a conversation with our target customer and see what it is that they're willing to pay. Let's push the boundaries. First deal after that, this is a long time ago, late 2009 probably. First deal was $5,000. And so if they'd taken our highest priced option, we were leaving $4,750 on the table. So best thing was ever to do that. Now, since then, we've been able to, through our hundreds of customers, we've absolutely been able to up the price and up the price and up the price and up the price and see where we received pushback, see where we received pressure. There's no doubt that we have changed it tremendously over time. One of our great learnings is to, as best as possible, simplify pricing. We continue to try to simplify pricing. Early on, there were so many different levers that we could pull. Amount of volume that our customers were using, amount of content that was coming in that they were putting to bear, number of users that they had in the system. There were probably 10 different pricing levers, and we tried them all, sometimes all at once. And that ended up being way too complex, and we would hear that. Your pricing's too complex. I don't get it. I can't understand how much I'm actually gonna have to spend at the end of the year. And so we took efforts to simplify. Today, we feel like the market has matured a bit. We have more competition. We know what the competition comes at. We still are, compared to competition, we're highly priced. But it's a price that we're able to demand because we have so many satisfied customers in our rearview mirror, or not, I shouldn't say that. There's still happy, satisfied customers that stay with us year over year. So there's no doubt, I'll summarize by saying that we continued to up the price over time and waited until somebody pushed back. And it was only then that we started to see sort of the artificial ceiling that existed. There are some deals that we've done that I told you we went from $250 to $5,000. And there's some deals that we've done that have been over $400,000. There was no limit for that. I mean, there was a ceiling for them, but it was clearly much higher than what we perceived it as being. I think that if you have the opportunity, if you have the skills to get on the horn with your prospective customer, to throw out a price that may be shot down, I think you're going to find that what you can charge for a valuable service is way more than you think it is. It reminds me of an old story where a software developer is going up in an elevator to go pitch a client, software developer and a sales guy. And the sales guy said, what do you think we should charge for the product? Like, I don't know, maybe $750. I couldn't possibly think it'd be worth more than that. They got up there and they're in the pricing discussion, and the sales guy says, yeah, well, the price, we can't go lower than $75,000. And the engineer is blown away. He sits down, and the prospect gathers, and they look back like, that's too high for us. We can't go over $60,000, and end up signing the deal. I mean, that's legend, lore, but there's definite truth in the fact that entrepreneurs, startup founders, people trying to make a business tend to undervalue their product. If you have a truly valuable product and you've got a prospect sitting in front of you, push the price higher. You'll be surprised at how much they're willing to pay for. Yes. Oh, sorry.
How much do you, what percentage of the marketing budget do you think you can demand or get? Because the marketing budgets are pretty high.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to give you a sort of nuanced answer to that. Because how much of the marketing budget do we think we can demand? Michaela asked early on, what is social media marketing? And I answered by saying that it's marketing through social marketing channels, but then also using information to inform traditional marketing tactics. And so, and I'd even go a step beyond that. It's not quite social media marketing, but even a step beyond that. That same social data can be infused into all other parts of the enterprise. And so, what I'm getting at is that very commonly, we will demand a significant portion of the marketing budget because we feel like social is at the core of even traditional marketing. But by saying that you can now use this social information as well to go far beyond just marketing. You can use it to help drive product direction. You can use it. I'll tell you. Even though we have media brands, and I'll get back to that in just a second. Even though we have media brands and agencies, internally we don't really segment it that way. We find that our customers across media brands, specifically brands and agencies, they fall into two camps. One where the company interacts directly with their end customer, and ones that don't. Example: Samsung makes a crap load of product, right? Tons of digital goods. But they don't interact directly with their end customers. Generally, those are sold at Best Buy or Target or something like that. Target is also a customer of ours. Best Buy is also a customer of ours, and they interact directly with the end user. Their needs are different. For the one that's interacting directly with the customer, one of their core needs is not marketing. It's care. It's the airlines. It's travel agencies. They need to be reaching out and have that constant back and forth, and it's not marketing. So how much of the marketing budget do we demand? Surely a substantial percentage, because we feel like it touches all of marketing. But the best thing is that we get to tap into other budgets as well, because it goes far beyond marketing. Our social software platform taps into care and things that influence the rest of the enterprise. Hang on, there was another question over here.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. So before you guys had cloud, what were some of your early successful biz dev strategies? If we take away that you have a really valuable product that people inherently want, like if you break it down to just the core fundamental strategies, what were the best practices that you used?
For us in building our business.
Yeah, building a business and then also in developing customers and scaling.
Yeah. So I'd say the biggest and most beneficial thing we did was strike up that tremendous relationship with Twitter. Because just that relationship itself, it yielded a tremendous amount of business. And so whenever, I didn't say this before, but we're getting bigger as a company. I do a lot to stay in the business, to work in the business and on the business, but also on the side, I advise a lot of companies. And it's, where was I going with this? So in advising companies, I'm often asked, how do I, what are some of my strategies, some of these biz dev strategies that I can use to take my fledgling company and get it in front of a whole lot more customers? And I can't say what the exact answer is, but I can say that for us, striking that relationship with Twitter, and then a year later, striking a similar relationship with Facebook, continuing to do so with companies that we knew would be the go-to for our end target customers, those are strategic relationships to make. Another example here, honestly, is for us was agencies. So yes, agencies were customers, but striking up a relationship with an agency means that if you can provide a win for that agency, they have tens or hundreds of customers themselves for whom you'll be on the tip of their lips when they're looking for some sort of social software platform. So the word I always come back to is scale. What's a relationship you can make that can bring scale to your business? We knew that all the media companies were going to Twitter. Say, how do I get tweets on air? How do I bring social to my television show? And so we made sure to strike that relationship with Twitter. That's another story, which I won't go into now, but it's fun how we actually struck that relationship. So the biz dev strategy, boiling it down, was get in front of partners that can bring scale to your business. Does that answer your question, or is that a little bit too...
Well, that's one side of it. That's a very valid answer in itself. But outside of strategic partnerships, are there other ways you can elaborate on it? And if you don't feel like it, that's fine. It's a valid answer.
Other biz dev strategies. Those are the ones that was really our strategy, and we took that and ran with it. I can't say if there are no others that come to mind that are truly worth mentioning. It was
obviously worked for you.
It did, thankfully. Yeah, I'm sorry, there was a question there in the back before you married.
Okay, so Brian, I wanted to ask you in terms of mentioned scale. So how scalable is your platform? One, and two, with analytics, right? How do you peruse through all of that data when you do querying? Especially in historicals, right? Because you're going back to trends.
Yeah. So you're really talking technical scale, right? Yeah. So let's see. We bring in a lot of data. There are two places where we need to scale. On the back end and on the front end of our system. So on the back end, we need to be ready to scale to handle an incredible volume of social media content. So when there's a spike, when there's 3 amazing plays at the end of the Super Bowl within a minute and a half, Twitter goes freaking bonkers. There were tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of tweets within just a few seconds, and that floods down the fire hose at just an astounding rate. So we scale to the current peak that we've seen is about 120,000 tweets per second pushed down into our systems. Now what's funny, what we discovered years ago is that at that volume, just coming down one connection, even that will overflow TCP buffers. And so you gotta have networking set up internally, you gotta split it across multiple connections. There is a ton that we have done to ensure that we're able to scale to even just consume the data. And then once we get it, we got to store it in some place that we can actually serve up effectively and deliver out the other end when people are asking for it. Our technical stack is Kafka, Cassandra, tons of backend distributed jobs, lots of drop wizard, lots of backend Scala, disruptor pattern stuff in our consumption of consumption of fire hose data, popping up. I mean, there's other databases as well. We've got, this is all EC2 hosted as well. We're all auto-scaling on Amazon. We've got some MySQL, we've got Redis. Redis is probably the weakest part of our infrastructure at the moment, candidly. Then we're a Ruby and Rails stack, and we deliver, so this is the other part where we need to scale. We deliver not only UI, but API traffic. We do just a ton of API traffic. In peak moments, we've done north of 60,000 API hits per second. And that's like during times when, you know, the Super Bowl's going on and there's an experience on the CBS homepage that's viewing all these different kinds of social media content all at once. I mean, they're just hammering us. So in front of us, in front of our API serving Rails stack is Varnish, reverse proxy caching layer that we would be dead if we didn't have it. So that was getting geeky real fast, but I'd say that there's a ton of back-end work, all EC2 hosted, all auto-scalable, and that would not exist. Probably should, so me and Eric, so I'm Brian, Eric is one of my technical co-founders. He's CTO, I'm VP of engineering. CTO, his small team is just a group of badasses that know EC2 inside out, that know how to scale back-end systems beyond anything that this world has ever seen. I mean, they are absolute studs. They make sure that we're up all the time, that we can scale to incredible volumes of traffic and social media that comes down the hose. My team is substantially larger, and it's my responsibility to build product. I recruit the team, I motivate the team, I sit alongside and code with the team, I build the best possible dev environment that exists here in Austin or anywhere else. I build an environment where people love to ship product, and we've done so very effectively over the last several years. There's a question here.
Yeah. How did you build the relationship with Twitter? How did you get them to talk to you?
So that's the story that I said might. I'll summarize, and then maybe we can go into this later. I'm sorry we're taking a bunch of time here.
Like 5 more minutes?
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so South by Southwest, many years ago. For those of you who have experienced South by Southwest Interactive, you will know that, you probably know that the value is not in the talks at the convention center. The value is in the time in between the talks. It's in the hallways, it's in the parties, it's in the spaces in between where you have an opportunity to meet somebody and move your business forward, your fledgling business forward. And so we've been working on our product for a little while. We had a couple of very minor successes, but still thought we had a pretty good product. And I wanted to connect with somebody from Twitter, and went to the Twitter party. This is many years ago, probably 2009, I think, 2009, 2010. Went to the Twitter party with the intent of being ballsy, getting in front, meeting a Twitter founder and putting us on the map for them. And went there, and I was too nervous, I was too shy, and so I saw them, but I didn't do anything. And so I left. I was walking with a few friends down the street, and we got a little bit down the corner. We're trying to figure out what party we're going to go to next, where I would, again, not do anything. And I bumped into this guy that I recognized, and no kidding, his name is Ev Williams. He was the CEO of Twitter. So lucky, right? So bumped into Ev, and at that point, the drinks that I had at the Twitter party were starting to kick in, and so I was okay. I said, "Hey, Ev, how you doing?" He's like, have we met? And so struck up a conversation. Long story short, I thanked him for building Twitter because we built a small fledgling business on top of it. Said we're doing something in the Twitter curation and moderation space, and he said, "Curation, moderation, really? Give me your card. Have you talked to Chloe yet?" I was like, "No, I haven't talked to Chloe." He said, "I'm gonna set up something between you and Chloe so you guys can chat further." She heads up our media relationships. And so thanked him, shook his hand, walked away from there feeling awesome. And then I'm like, okay, who's Chloe? And so immediately start stalking her, right? And I discover her name is Chloe Sladden. She's the director, at that time, director of media partnerships. And I saw, what is it? You guys remember Gowalla? Yeah, so Gowalla, early Foursquare competitor, Austin-based. I saw her check in on Foursquare at the Gowalla party at the Belmont. And so I'm like, okay, let's go find Chloe. And so I went and I found Chloe, and her avatar, the only thing I had to go by was her avatar. And it was where she's kind of like she moved her head around so her hair is all in her face. But I just walked around that party until I found somebody who I thought was Chloe, and sure enough, it was her. And so struck up a relationship there, and it was just a brief conversation, but it was enough so that I could reach out the next week via email and start talking, just start the conversation. It's funny how much the reason I'm sitting here today is because I had a couple of drinks at a Twitter party, many years ago. And so at that point, and this is the second half of that story, is that we were on Twitter's map. Or we had made a connection, we made a relationship, but still there's not a real relationship there. Fast forward a few months, and TC Disrupt, TechCrunch Disrupt was going on out in the Bay Area, and there was a company called DataSift that was getting a tremendous amount of buzz. I think they won the show, like the crowd favorite or whatever. And at the core of their product was much of the same technology that we had built, but we had a better user interface. I thought that we were doing things better than they were, but they're out in the Bay Area, they were there, and they got just a crap load of buzz. And we're like, this sucks. And so we sent an email to partner@twitter.com, referenced the the conversation that I'd had with Chloe and with Ev. And within an hour, we were, at this point, we have almost no users. And so we're tailing the logs for our platform, and we're seeing this guy log in from Twitter, and he's going through our platform, and he was using it for an hour. And then nothing. And then about an hour later after that, we got an email from this guy at Twitter, and he said, hey guys, great to connect. Love what you've done with the product. I was set out to do this and this and this and this and this, but ultimately I was disappointed, and here's why. X, Y, Z, PDQ, laid out a bunch of stuff. And it was all valid stuff, like some bugs, some stuff that was a little bit wonky. And so this is where I think there's one lesson to take away from this. So what we did is we immediately wrote back and said, thank you, we appreciate you taking the time, know you're busy, all that kind of stuff. And then we fixed every single issue that he laid out that day. And we sent him back another email later that night and said, hey Isaac, we fixed everything that you said, would love for you to hop in and take a look. And that made an impression. And so I think the message here is in a couple of different ways. One of the keywords I always like to go back to, and I've given talks about this before, I believe so strongly in it. For any entrepreneur, for anybody in an early stage startup, going a little bit beyond what the next guy is going to do makes a world of difference. Just hustle. And so getting Isaac, that guy's impression, he's like, okay, he ended up flying us out there. We met with the team. We showed him what we'd done. We showed him some of the successes we had with some media customers. Shortly thereafter, it was an election there was something, State of the Union out in New York. And Chloe, one of our counterparts, were out in New York. They're trying to get tweets on the front page of the New York Times. And they're like, hey, we'd love to use your software to curate, find some great stuff and put it out there. And there were some technical hiccups, there was some problem. And so hustle, again, one of our guys, one of the three of us, got on a plane and went out to New York that afternoon, said, you're having some technical issues, we're gonna resolve it. I'm booking a flight right now to New York. Got to the New York Times building, connected with Chloe, again, resolved the issues, and later that evening we had curated Twitter content on the homepage of the New York Times. So, hustle. Go beyond what the next guy's gonna do, and it's gonna pay off. That was a long story, but kind of fun.
Could I ask the following?
Please.
Just real quick, did you have any concern about Twitter taking over your idea or anything like that?
Of course, yeah. We had that concern for years. For years.
What?
We had that concern for years. And, quite honestly, with any partner, we're great partners with Twitter, we're great partners with Facebook. and beyond, that's going to be a challenge. Quite honestly, at any point, Twitter could decide to just pull our fire hose access. You know, we don't like you anymore. It's done. Or we've decided that what you're doing, we're going to do ourselves. But it became easier to allay that fear over time as we had win after win after win, successful, happy customer. You build that stable of customers that are going to get pissed at Twitter if we go away. And you start building a moat around, to defend the turf that you've built. We knew that, and they expressed that Twitter has no interest in pursuing this. We want to see it succeed on television. We want to see it succeed, with brands, and we don't intend to overtake what you're doing. But I will, no doubt, we saw some product moves from them that were pretty scary. But we just kept our heads down, kept doing a great job, building a great product, getting more customers that were happy, and a lot of those product things they ultimately dropped. And I feel very good where we are right now.
We have time for one more question. And okay, I think you had a question.
You guys are gonna have to combine your questions.
Yeah. Okay. I know he had his hand up beforehand.
Okay. All right, you go ahead.
All right. When you just started, you were getting leads for sales. You told me like you were taking calls even in your full-time job as well. Like how did you manage all of those? Like how did you close the sale on leads just at the start?
Yeah. What's probably pretty unique about what we did is that we did nothing to generate leads. So closing the leads is a different story. Closing the business is a different story. But we actually, for a long time, probably a year and a half, 2 years, we did absolutely nothing to generate leads. It was all inbound at that time. Because, if you're 3 people, there's not a whole lot that you can handle. And so with Twitter, with a couple of wins under our belt that we shipped, and now Twitter starting to push some more business our way, we had sort of all the leads that we could handle at the time. We had to start staffing up to handle more than that. But even before we struck the relationship with Twitter, I am amazed, still a miracle that we got our first customer, our first real customer. It was ABC's Dancing with the Stars. They found us. We had the crappiest one-page website that listed every benefit. It was horrible. But they must have Googled and found us. I have no freaking idea. But they found us. They wanted to put curated tweets about the show from the dancers, from the celebrities, but they wanted to remove every mention of them talking about partying and pimping their own products and trolling for votes. They wanted to get rid of all that stuff. And we could handle that in spades. We just got on a phone with them, said what we could do, gave them a login to the product. We were on, hey, log in with this, and then we would just be on the phone with them as they tried it out right in front of us, or over the phone. I think again going to the concept of hustle and going beyond what the next guy is going to do. We made every effort to close that early sale. How the heck did ABC find us? I have no freaking idea, but I'm gonna get on the phone. I'm gonna give you every bit of TLC you need to ensure that we get this business. You want 5 features? Sure, I'll do it. We have no other customers. I will build those 5 features for you overnight. And that sort of, going above and beyond dedication helped to land that first sale. And I'll tell you, after sale 1, you get prospect number 2, you have win number 1 to point to. And the more of those you get, the more you start to establish yourself as somebody that is worth going to, as having the solution that's worth going to and paying for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Can I do one last quick question?
Okay, well,
You're a technical co-founder. I was wondering about, you talked about culture, you talked about the company, about culture, and it's strange because usually, the CEO would set the culture. So I wanted to ask you, what kind of culture do you set in your development team? How do you choose your developers? How do you maintain high level about it?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that as quickly as possible. And I'd be happy to chat about this further afterwards as well. But I feel like we have a pretty unique dev team, I'll say product team at Spredfast. What we did from the earliest days is trusted that if we hired the absolute best talent, then I didn't need to oversee them, to be watching over their shoulder, making sure that they're doing things right. If you keep the technical bar high, then the capacity to let go and let that team execute goes way up. So the way we ship product we did at Mass Relevance and we do now at Spredfast. Let's say we've got a whole new product to build, brand new product. We start by building a team of 3 people. 1 developer, 1 designer, 1 product manager. Those 3 are peers. They operate as if they are a small startup. They define what the product looks like, how it's going to behave, what it needs to do, and because the hiring bar for those 3 people has been so incredibly high, I trust that they will execute on it. Now, we may need more horsepower. We need a 2nd developer, a 3rd developer. We augment that team. But the reason we're able to effectively have such incredibly high volume of output and high quality output is because we hire the best people and we give them the responsibility, the burden to ship product as if it's their own startup, as if it's their own baby. And so I'll tell you, my team, one of my best teams today, I was in one of their stand-ups. I'll put it in quotes because we don't follow like hardcore agile process at all. This is the way it goes down. It's like, okay, what's next for the product? All right, I think we should add geo support. Yep, I've heard that from a couple of customers. A couple of prospects want that. What's our timeline for it? We need to get this in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Okay, here's how we're gonna do it. So they get up on a whiteboard, they draw up how they think it's gonna behave, how it should look. Again, designer, product management, and dev. Get up on a whiteboard, draw it up. They get a shared understanding of what it is that they're going to ship. Like, this looks good, I feel good. Okay, lots of questions still, but you know what? I think we all are sort of on the same page. And then they go off in parallel. Developer starts coding it up, designer starts doing pencil and paper sketches, and the PM starts putting in JIRA issues to track the things that we've captured. We do not have product go off and talk to the market for a long time, come up with fully fleshed out stories, pass that over to designers, have them work up fully fleshed out comps, and then pass that over to devs and say, hey, here's what you're gonna build. That is a recipe for disenchantment between those 3 disciplines. It's a recipe for frustration, because invariably what you get is a developer at the end of the road saying, I can't build that, or that sucks, or I've already got a component that looks this way, but you've designed something the other way. Why don't we do something like this? And actually, instead of that, maybe we should do this other thing. You cut out 6 weeks of effort and put it into an hour of time by getting people up on a whiteboard, getting them in the same room, getting shared understanding through a high bandwidth conversation, and then getting down to brass tacks. And then a day later, they get together and they share progress. You've learned something technically that can help to inform the design. You recognize that there's a gap in what we can pull from the back end, and you have to go bring in one of our back end guys to help that team out. We're very fluid, we're very fast, very high output, and it all comes from picking great people early on and giving them the freedom to deliver. My goal in being the VP of Engineering at Mass Relevance, and today at Spredfast, still is, my goal from day one was to build the absolute best engineering culture ever. A place where every developer wants to come work and they never want to leave. I'll tell you what, now that we're 350 some people at Spredfast, my challenge is different. I don't have a problem recruiting. I get involved in every single hire. I see every candidate. That bar stays incredibly high. We haven't let down there at all. The challenge now is with the incredibly talented people that I have on my team. They've been with me now 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, some of them. Retention is the biggest challenge that I feel right now, because those guys can go anywhere.
You go start other startups?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've lost 3 people, and all of them have been to either start another company, join an early stage company, pursue a different passion. One guy went to teach. You know, another guy went into open source software because he just wants to do that. You know, and another guy went to be employee 1 at another technical startup, which is, I'd say, the one thing that I can't offer. Other than that, I say we have infinite flexibility to give you everything you absolutely want. Okay, off the soapbox now.
Well, that concludes our meetup. So thank you so much, Brian, for coming and speaking with us. And will you be available for questions afterwards?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll be here. Thank you so much for your rapt attention.
We do have a few announcements. If you dropped your business card in the front, we are raffling off a gift card.
Thank you. And if you just want to go
Here
ahead
it
and
comes.
pull a card.
Just pull one.
Yeah. And you do have to be present to win this time around.
Dwight E. Spence.
Right here.
There you go.
All right, congratulations. And then also, parking. Please make sure that you see Ashley at the back, and she'll validate parking. And please come to our next event. It's our March 3rd, and it is with Joseph Kopser from Ride Scout. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you.